Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Thursday, March the 4th. Now this is our last game, or last slate I should say, before the All-Star break. We have obviously 9 games today, and then there are no games on till Wednesday. We'll have a break of whatever, 5-6 days with no games. Obviously I will not be making any videos during that time. I'm pretty much just going to take the week off, I guess. It's really the only time I don't, upload content, make videos is during the All-Star break, because normally I upload every single day. I always look forward to the All-Star break because it's just, some time off. I play DFS every single day. I've been playing DFS every single day for the last 3 to 4 years. It feels good to get a couple of days off, but I am excited for this last slate. Obviously, we'll break this down team by team like we always do. Just before we do get started, guys, please hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button as well. If you are new here, be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You get notified every time I do go live. Sadly, I will not be able to stream for this last slate before the All-Star break, but once we get back, I'll be streaming basically every day again. Just have some things to do this afternoon. I'm traveling, so I cannot go live this afternoon, but still wanted to get a video up, and I still do plan on playing today's slate. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and start off with the Toronto and Boston game. We'll go through each game. Going to try and go rather quickly, just kind of give you guys my quick thoughts. So starting off with Toronto, we basically have the same scenario that we had on Wednesday night. Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby are all going to remain out for COVID protocols. So with those guys out, Kyle Lowry, look, he wasn't great Wednesday night. He was okay. He had 40 DK points in 35 minutes. He lost about 4 to 5 extra minutes because of blowout. They pulled him in the fourth quarter. They lost by like 20. He was on pace to play around 40 minutes had it been a close game. Against Boston here, this could obviously be another blowout. This Raptors team is pretty shorthanded right now. But if this game stays close, I think we get close to 40 minutes from Kyle Lowry. I expect him to get monster usage without VanVleet, without Siakam. He didn't take a ton of shots on Wednesday night, but he did contribute with 6 assists, 4 rebounds. He's just going to be a guy that gives you a little bit of everything. I expect there to be more opportunity for him to score. So I really like Kyle Lowry. He's once again a strong play in my opinion. Even in a tough matchup against Boston, I still think Lowry looks like a great play on both sides. So I do like him once again. I think Norman Powell's a really good option as well. Norman Powell actually had a really good game. He took a ton of shots, took 20 shots in that game, played 38 minutes, had 46 Draftkings points. I expect there to be a ton of usage available for Powell like there was on Wednesday night. With VanVleet and Siakam off the floor, Powell gets a big boost, so I do really like him. Chris Boucher came off the bench Wednesday, which was kind of surprising. He still played 25 minutes. He had 34 DK points. He was solid. With him coming off the bench, it's tougher to pay $6,600 for him just because I don't think he's going to play 30-plus minutes off the bench. I think it's more likely he gets 26, 28 minutes. He's still in play for tournaments because of the massive upside that Boucher has. I just don't know if that could go there in cash games. Just with him not starting, that does hurt his minute upside a little bit. That definitely lowers his projection a little bit. So more of a tournament play with him coming off the bench. Aaron Baines started. He played around 23 to 24 minutes. That's probably what we get from him today. At $3,900, he's a decent value play if you do want to go to him. But then the bench guys, DeAndre Bembry came off the bench. I thought they were going to start Bembry, but he came off the bench. He played 27 minutes, but he wasn't really productive. Probably not going to look to Bembry on this slate, especially if better value opens up. I still think Terrence Davis is a viable cheap option. He did wind up starting. He wasn't really that good. He only had 15 DK points in 21 minutes. But if Terrence Davis starts again, we probably get low to mid-20s minutes from him. He's only $3,700. He shot terribly in that game. I feel like this is definitely a hot hand scenario. Like if Terrence Davis comes out and just starts knocking down some shots, they'll play him 30-plus minutes. It's just, is he going to do that? Obviously, he didn't shoot the ball that well. He only played 21 minutes. I feel like if he would have shot better, had a better game, they would have definitely played him more. I'm fine taking the risk on Davis. He's still super cheap. Assuming he starts again, I think he is a decent value. Utah did start. He only played 11 minutes though. So even if he starts again, it's tough to feel insanely confident in him. So I think that does it for the Toronto side. Now moving on to Boston. There isn't a ton I like from Boston today. Toronto, not the best matchup here. Tatum, Brown, Walker, I feel like they're all just kind of appropriately priced today. If I had to play one of them, it would probably be Tatum. I feel like he's the guy that gives you the most upside, but none of these Boston guys really look like strong options today. I think they're just lower owned tournament plays you can target. It's a bigger slate. We have 9 games. There's better spots. So moving on to the next game, the Clippers and the Wizards. We have a big injury to watch on the Clippers side today. Kawhi Leonard currently questionable. Obviously, this is a huge injury that impacts a lot. Assuming that Kawhi plays, Really, the only two guys I'll be looking to on the Clippers are Kawhi himself and PG. I think in this really good matchup against the Wizards, Kawhi and PG definitely have a ton of upside here. We know they're both going to dominate the usage when they're on the floor. If I had to pick one, I think I would rather go to Kawhi, assuming that he is able to play. But I think both him and PG are really solid options. If we do get a scenario, though, where Kawhi winds up out, I think Paul George becomes one of the best plays on the slate. I would love Paul George if Kawhi gets ruled out. Lou Williams would be a very interesting GPP option as well. You know, he hasn't been nearly as good as he was when Kawhi and PG were both out. Like, he definitely has... He's kind of hit that rough stretch again where he's not really playing that well. Even last game with Kawhi out, he didn't play that great against Boston. But this is a much better matchup. I'd be fine going to Lou Will at 5,300 if Kawhi gets ruled out. Serge Ibaka, really good matchup. He gets a little boost with Kawhi off the floor. You know, he wasn't great either last game, but I think Ibaka would be an interesting tournament play. Don't know if there's too much else, though, that I would want to target from the Clippers. Reggie Jackson, I will mention, he actually wound up starting in place of Kawhi. If Kawhi gets ruled out and Reggie Jackson starts again, I think Reggie Jackson is probably one of the better value plays on the slate. He did play 37 minutes. He had a huge game against Boston. I don't know if we can expect him to score 40 Draftkings points again, but for 3,900 in a great matchup against the Wizards, if Kawhi's out and Reggie starts, Reggie probably one of the best value plays on the slate. So him and Paul George will be the top two guys I probably look to from the Clippers if Kawhi gets ruled out. But if Kawhi plays, it's just Kawhi and PG for me on this team. Moving on to the Wizards side, though. So with the Wizards, you know, for me, I don't really want to target any of these secondary pieces, any of these bench guys or these low usage starters. It's just Westbrook and Beal for me. If I'm going to play anyone on Washington, it's going to be those two guys. I don't think either one are top options for me. There's other studs I'd rather get to on the slate. On the other side of this game, I think I would rather play Kawhi and PG for cheaper in a much better matchup. So I don't love Westbrook or Beal here. Obviously, they're guys you can basically play every slate. They have so much upside, but don't think I'm going to get to him or get to them. So we can go ahead and move on to the next game, Detroit and New York. So on Detroit, they are a team that's dealing with some injuries. We know DeLon Wright and Blake Griffin are both going to remain out. Jeremy Grant and Josh Jackson, though, they were both out in Wednesday's game. They did not play. This is a back-to-back for the Pistons, so we have no idea yet if Grant or Jackson are going to play today. I don't really know. My best guess is that they probably play, but this will be something to monitor. If Grant and Jackson get ruled out again, I don't think it changes too much because, like, a lot of these guys that are going to get more minutes just are not productive players. Like, Wayne Ellington will probably get some more minutes, but I don't want to play Wayne Ellington. Same with Svi Mykhailiuk. Same with Sekou Naboya. I mean, Sekou, he played 27 minutes. He still wasn't that productive, though. Svi, I believe, did draw the start. He played 37 minutes. He'd be an okay value play if Jeremy Grant or Josh Jackson get ruled out again. If they both get ruled out, I'd have some interest in Svi. But honestly, my favorite guy from the Pistons today is Dennis Smith Jr. Dennis Smith Jr. has just been playing so well lately. Had a triple-double in Wednesday's game against the Raptors, 10, 12, and 11 with 3 steals, had over 50 Draftkings points. Obviously, we cannot expect that to happen again here, but Dennis Smith Jr. has definitely been on the good side of Dwayne Casey in terms of minutes. Like, he's been getting 26, 28 minutes. It seems as though they've kind of gone away from Saban Lee. It seems like Smith Jr. is the point guard they want to give the minutes to right now. So I think tonight we probably get closer to 30 minutes from Dennis Smith Jr. at 4,800. He's been productive when given the opportunity, when given the minutes, averaging about a fantasy point per minute. So with not a ton of standout value right now, I think Dennis Smith Jr. is a guy I will be looking to. 4,800 on DK, pretty cheap on Yahoo as well, $15 or $16 over there. Like Dennis Smith Jr. quite a bit on both sides. I think he's definitely my favorite guy to target from Detroit today. But we can go ahead and move on to the Knicks side. So with the Knicks, another team we need to watch for injuries. Right now, Elfrid Payton and Taj Gibson are both doubtful, so they're both expected to be out. Derrick Rose is questionable, though. This is a pretty big injury to watch. I have no idea if Rose plays here. It's for COVID protocols. My best guess is that he plays because I'm pretty sure they said that he's with the team right now, which makes me assume that he's probably going to play. But if we do get a scenario where Derrick Rose is out again, Emmanuel Quickley, even at 5,300, I think would become a top play if Rose is out. He played 29 minutes off the bench last game with Rose out, had 41 DK points, took 21 shots. Like, Quickley's just a guy that when he's out there, he's going to take a ton of shots, going to get a ton of usage. He's a productive player when he gets minutes. I'd assume we get 25 to 30 minutes from him if Rose sits. So I would love Quickley on this slate if Rose is out. If Rose plays, I think he's actually a very solid option at 5,900 because with Elfrid Payton doubtful, we've seen Rose, getting the starts, playing pretty big minutes. He's going to play most likely over 30 minutes here if this game stays close. He's been getting 38, 32 minutes the last 2 games he started. At 5,900, I'm totally fine paying that price tag for Derrick Rose if he is able to go and if he does start again. So He's someone I have interest in from the Knicks. And then I do want to talk about Nerlens Noel. Nerlens Noel was pretty popular last slate. He was one of the chalkier plays. He didn't have that good of a game. He only had 26 DK points, but again, he played massive minutes, played 37 minutes, and just the last 3 games with Taj Gibson out, Noel's played 41-40 and 37 minutes. So it's very likely with Gibson doubtful again that we get almost 40 minutes from Nerlens Noel. You know, his production, it's been up and down this year. He hasn't been a great point per minute player, but 5,600, I think, still an appealing price tag for him if he's going to be playing around 40 minutes. It is a really good matchup against Detroit. It's a matchup that he just had a ton of success in when these teams played a couple of days ago. So I'm fine going to Noel, even though his price came up a little bit. I think he is still a viable center option. I have some interest in him on Yahoo as well at $20, I think. He just looks like a really solid play right now. With him getting, you know, almost 40 minutes a game, it's hard not to like Noel, even when he's almost 6K. Like, he can easily pay off this price point when he's playing so many minutes. So, do like him. I like Rose if he plays. If Rose gets ruled out, I think quickly becomes viable or becomes a really strong option. Ntilikina, he did start in place of Rose. You could maybe go to Ntilikina if he starts again, but I don't think I'm going to go there personally. We can go ahead and move on to the next game. So, looking at Denver and Indiana. On Denver today, there's a couple guys I have interest in from the Nuggets. I think Jokic, you know, is always a guy you can look to in tournaments. On this slate, I think there's other studs I'd rather go to. I think I do prefer Giannis over Jokic, but Jokic, I have no problems with him. He's basically in play for me every slate. Michael Porter Jr., he burned me the last slate, but I'm fine going right back to him. He got into some foul trouble last game against Milwaukee, guarding Giannis. I don't think we're going to get 25 minutes from MPJ here. As long as the game stays close and he's not in foul trouble, he should play around 35, 36 minutes. He's been productive this year when given the opportunity. He is a guy that can score and can rebound, gives you 40-plus point upside when he's playing big minutes, and I assume we get big minutes from him today as long as he, you know, stays out of foul trouble. So do have some interest in MPJ. Will Barton, I think, is also a pretty solid small forward option if you're looking for a little bit of a cheaper option at the position. He's been playing pretty well lately. Last 3 games, 32, 26, 35 DK points. Been getting the minutes. He should continue to get the minutes. I assume he gets probably 35, 36 minutes here. If this game stays close at 5,500, I'm totally fine going to Will Barton on this slate, especially, you know, since there really isn't a ton of standout cheap options right now. We know JaMychal Green, Millsap, Harris, Campazzo are all going to remain out, so you should expect big minutes from Jokic, Murray, Barton, MPJ as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. I have interest in all those guys. PJ Dozier, you can maybe go to coming off the bench. He got 23 minutes last game, probably plays around 20 to 22 minutes today. He's a fine value at 3,400, but yeah, I think that does it for Denver. Now moving on to Indiana, there really isn't much I like from the Pacers here. Sabonis and Brogdon, I think, in this matchup are just, you know, lower-owned tournament plays. I don't think either one stands out as top options. TJ McConnell had 10 steals on Wednesday. I'm not going to chase that. I'll let other people play TJ McConnell today. At 6K, there's no interest for me in McConnell when Brogdon's healthy and McConnell's priced where he is. I don't see any reason to play him. So I don't really like this Pacers team that much. They're not a team I expect to have much exposure to at all today. We can go ahead and move on to the next game. So Milwaukee and Memphis. Milwaukee for me, now that Drew Holiday's back, that does hurt both Giannis and Middleton a little bit. Not too much, but usually when this team is fully healthy, I don't target too much on this team outside of Giannis, and I think that is the case today. If I'm going to go to anyone on Milwaukee, it's going to be Giannis, and I think Giannis, he is one of the better pay-up options in my opinion. I do like him quite a bit on both sides. 11K on DK, I think is a pretty reasonable price tag. On Yahoo, coming in at $56, I think it's pretty easy to get Giannis in on Yahoo, especially with how many underpriced guys there are there. So definitely have interest in Giannis on both sides. He's just been so good this year. I don't really need to tell you guys that Giannis is a good play. I mean, you probably know that. It's just a matter of if you can fit him in. Right now, there isn't a ton of standout value, so it may be a bit tougher to get to Giannis, but there are a ton of guys questionable right now. And if some of these guys, start getting ruled out, then yeah, we're going to have plenty of value. And I think this is going to be one of those slates where we're going to get news throughout the day that opens up value. So I'm going to try and get to Giannis if I can. He's one of the safest options on the board, night in and night out. Basically, he's giving you 45, 50 DK points every night at the worst. He had a god-awful game against Denver. Still had 46 DK points. Obviously, that wasn't good at all, but he's not going to completely tank your lineups. And as long as the game stays close, we know Giannis has 70-plus point upside. It's a good matchup. It's a fast-paced game. I expect we get 36, 38 minutes from here from Giannis if this game stays close. At 11K, he's the guy that I want to pay up for on this slate. He is my favorite guy to target from Milwaukee by far. Don't have much interest in anyone else on this team, though. So moving on to the Memphis side and looking at Memphis, John Morant, I had a lot of interest in him last slate. He actually came through for me for once. Got a big John Morant game last game against the Wizards. Now he's been priced up to 7,800. It's not as good of a matchup today. I still think Morant's a solid tournament option, but I don't know if he's going to be a top play like he was for me on the last slate. Same with J-Val. J-Val burned me last slate. He got into some foul trouble. J-Val's still a guy I have interested in basically every night because of, how much upside he has, with how good of a point per minute player he is. So both him and Morant, I think, are solid tournament plays here. They should be lower owned on this big slate. But then these secondary Memphis guys, I do want to talk about D'Anthony Melton. So he played really, really well off the bench last game. He got pretty good minutes, 26 minutes, had 39 DraftKings points. With Grayson Allen ruled out, I think the minutes are just they're going to fluctuate from game to game. Some games we'll see Desmond Bane get pretty good minutes. Last game it was Melton who got big minutes. It could be Justice Winslow who gets the minutes. Melton's the guy, though, that I think I'm willing to take the risk on just because he's been such a good point-per-minute player this year when given the minutes, when given the opportunity. And with Grayson Allen still out, I expect there to be at least low to mid-20s minutes available for Melton. Even at 4,700, I'm fine going to him on this slate, especially in a fast-paced game where there should be plenty of opportunity for him to get rebounds, assists, steals. That's something he's really good at. He's shown that he can kind of stuff the stat sheet, do a little bit of everything. So at 4,700, I do actually like D'Anthony Melton as a cheaper option on this slate, and he is pretty cheap on Yahoo too. One of the better shooting guard options in my opinion, only $13 over there. Definitely have interest in Melton on both sides. With Grayson Allen out, I think he is one of the biggest beneficiaries in terms of minutes, and that's key for Melton. He's not a guy that has to play a ton because he's so productive when he does get the opportunity. I think there's going to be at least 22, 24 minutes available for him with Grayson Allen out. So do like him as a value play. Desmond Bane should start again. He only played 22 minutes last game, but I think most nights we're probably going to get a little bit more than that from Desmond Bane in terms of minutes. If you want to go to him as a value, I think he's a fine option. Have a feeling there will be better value open up as the day goes on, but I don't mind Desmond Bane as a cheap small forward for 4,200. But that probably does it for Memphis. We can go ahead and move on to Miami and New Orleans. So on Miami, we have two huge injuries here. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are both questionable today. If they both wind up sitting, then this just becomes, lock and load. You're going to want to play a ton of Miami guys if Bam and Butler somehow both get ruled out. Hero, Dragic, Nunn will all become amazing plays. We'd get a ton of great value with Kelly Olynyk, who'd be a great value play. Precious Achiuwa, assuming he were to start, would be a smash value at 3K. So we got to watch the injuries here with Butler and Bam. If we get a scenario where both play, I don't think I'm going to look too much on Miami outside of Butler and Bam as, lower-owned tournament plays. It is a good matchup, so I think they do have a lot of upside here. They're priced kind of appropriately, though. It's not like either one stands out as, being underpriced, but the upside is definitely there against this fast-paced Pelicans team that has been playing pretty bad defense lately. If we get a scenario where Butler plays and Bam is out, I think the guys I'll definitely be looking to for value are Kelly Olynyk and Precious Achiuwa. I think those will be the two guys that benefit if Bam's out. Plus, I'd like Jimmy Butler a little bit more. If we get a scenario where Butler is out and Bam plays, then I think the guys that would benefit if Butler's out are the three guards, Dragic, Nunn, and Hero. I think all would be solid options. Dragic is the one I've been playing lately with Butler out. I think if Butler sits again, I'd probably go to Dragic once again. But yeah, we just got to watch the injuries here. This is probably the big team to watch. If we get a scenario where both Butler and Bam out, then it's just, Yahtzee, just load up on these Miami guys. This will be something we have to keep an eye on throughout the day, though. So we can go ahead and move on to the Pelicans side. Now, with the Pelicans today, not a great matchup here against Miami. I think there are some guys that you can target in tournaments, like a Zion, who has massive upside every night. Brandon Ingram was terrible on Wednesday, got into some foul trouble. I'm fine going to him in tournaments as a lower-owned option. He should be very low-owned on this big slate, so him and Zion, I think, are viable. Eric Bledsoe, I think, does remain too cheap still. 5,400, Bledsoe's just getting big minutes right now. I mean, he's played at least 34 minutes in 4 straight games. He's only 5,400. If we're going to get 34, 35 minutes from Bledsoe at only 5,400, he can easily pay off that price tag. So, honestly, when you factor in price, Eric Bledsoe is probably my favorite guy to target from the Pelicans today. Not a ton of interest in guys like Lonzo or Adams or Josh Hart. It's just really the top two guys and then Eric Bledsoe for me. And yeah, Bledsoe I think is my favorite, factoring in price. He does still feel too cheap, especially with him getting big minutes right now. But yeah, we can go ahead and move on to the next game. We got 3 more to break down. So on OKC today, this is a back-to-back for OKC, which is something to monitor. Al Horford, I'm pretty sure, has rested on every back-to-back this year. So if Al Horford gets ruled out, obviously Isaiah Roby does benefit. Isaiah Roby is priced appropriately, though. It's not like he's a great value play, even if Horford's out. He's 5,400. He's priced appropriately. Roby, though, is pretty cheap on Yahoo, so if you do play over there, if we do get a scenario where Horford is out on this back-to-back, Isaiah Roby for $13 at power forward I think would become one of the better value plays at that price point. Not as much interest on DK though. But outside of Roby, if Horford gets ruled out for rest, I don't really like that much on this OKC team. SGA, it's a solid matchup, but at 9K, there's just other guys I'd rather play over SGA today. Definitely give me Lowry for cheaper. I just don't like much on OKC outside of Roby on Yahoo if Horford gets ruled out. But we can go ahead and move on to the San Antonio side. So with San Antonio, we do need to watch the status of LaMarcus Aldridge. That is kind of impactful on this slate. With Aldridge out last game, we did get big minutes from Jakob Poeltl. He played 30 minutes, but he lost some time due to blowout in that game. He was on pace to play about 34 minutes had the game stay close. Poeltl would be a solid option if Aldridge is out again. I would have some interest in him at 6,200. Trey Lyles played a lot more than I thought he would. With Keldon Johnson back last game, Trey Lyles still got 30 minutes. I think if Aldridge is out again, we probably get 26, 28 minutes from Trey Lyles. He'd be a decent value at 4,300. If Aldridge plays, though, there isn't a ton I like on San Antonio today. I think everyone's just kind of priced appropriately. DeRozan obviously really benefits if Aldridge is out. So if Aldridge sits, you could definitely pay up for DeRozan. He would become one of the better small forward plays. But if Aldridge plays, I don't really want to pay $8,200 for DeRozan. Don't really want to pay $7,900 for DeJounte Murray. So if Aldridge plays, not a ton of interest in anyone on San Antonio. If he's out, though, that's a bump for DeRozan, and that would make guys like Poeltl and Trey Lyles viable options that you could target as well. But going ahead and moving on to the next game, Sacramento and Portland. So on Sacramento today, I do like De'Aaron Fox here in tournaments. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to him on this slate because I do prefer Lowry for a little bit cheaper. I want to try and pay up for Giannis if I can. I think Fox is going to be pretty low owned, though. He didn't have that good of a game Wednesday night. I'm pretty sure he finished with he had a bad game against the Lakers Wednesday night, if I remember correctly. He should be lower owned here. It is a good matchup. Much better spot today against Portland. Should be a pretty fast-paced game. Two pretty bad defensive teams. I do have some interest in De'Aaron Fox. Marvin Bagley, he's super cheap on Yahoo, so if you play over there, I think Marvin Bagley looks like a solid option. Rashawn Holmes in tournaments, I think, is appealing. This is a really good matchup against Enes Kanter, one he should have a ton of success in. Holmes, we know, with him getting 30-plus minutes a night right now, he's a guy that has, big-time upside every night. He's another guy that should be super low-owned. I don't know if there's any top plays for me from Sacramento outside of Fox, but I do like Bagley on Yahoo. I like Holmes in tournaments. I think that does it for the Kings, though, on this slate, or for at least for this slate. There's just a lot of games, a lot of news we're waiting on. I don't know if the Kings are going to be a team I really focus on. Moving on to the Portland side, though. So with Portland, there's a couple guys I like here. I think Dame in tournaments makes a lot of sense. Again, I think I'd rather play Giannis on this slate. I'd rather play Jokic as well. But in a really good matchup against Sacramento, a fast-paced game, Dame has a ton of upside here. He was pretty bad Wednesday night against the Warriors. He had a pretty bad game, but I would expect him to bounce back in a much better matchup today. Dame, I think, is a solid pay-up option. Enes Kanter, not as interested in him on this slate. I think there's other center plays I would rather get to. It is a good matchup, but don't know if I want to go to Kanter today. Robert Covington, I actually do have a good amount of interest in, though. Robert Covington has just been playing so well lately. He's been playing a ton of minutes. He's been getting the backup 5 minutes. He's been their backup center whenever Kanter's off the floor. It's likely that we get 36, 38 minutes from Covington today. He's been scoring, pretty well lately. He's been getting rebounds. He's been giving you a double-double, and I'm pretty sure he's double-doubled in 3 straight games, or at least 2 straight games. I think he did have a double-double Wednesday night against the Warriors, or close to it. He's a guy that can always get those defensive stats as well. There's actually some upside for Covington at 5,900, especially in a good game environment like this, in a fast-paced game where there's going to be a ton of possessions. Covington could definitely get you a double-double, get a few defensive stats, and easily put up 35, 40 DK points. So I have interest in him. I have interest in Dame. I don't know if I'm going to be targeting anyone else on Portland, though, outside of those two guys. So moving on to the last game of the night, the Warriors and the Suns. So on the Warriors today, we do need to watch the stats of Kelly Oubre. So Kelly Oubre, he was ruled questionable for Wednesday's game. Did not wind up playing, and we actually saw Kent Bazemore draw the start in place of Kelly Oubre. Kent Bazemore did play pretty well in the starting lineup, and he did get pretty good minutes. I think he played around 30 minutes, finished with 30 DK points. If Bazemore starts again for Oubre at 3,500, he'd be a really good value play. He would be a guy I'd have a lot of interest in as small forward. Outside of Bazemore, though, if Oubre gets ruled out, I don't have too much interest in anyone else on this team. Curry had a really good game Wednesday night, but this isn't nearly as good of a matchup against Phoenix. Tougher spot, a good Phoenix defense, a Phoenix team that plays slow. Draymond, I think in tournaments makes plenty of sense. Don't know if I could go there like in cash games, but we know the upside Draymond has. He's just a guy that can go out there and stuff the stat sheet every night. I think the top play from the Warriors, though, if Oubre gets ruled out, Kent Bazemore is the guy that I'm going to be really looking to because he's just super, super cheap, and he played really well Wednesday in the start in place of Oubre. I'd assume he'd get the start again. He would be a good value if Oubre's out. But looking at Phoenix real quick before we do wrap things up, guys. So on Phoenix, there isn't too much I like here outside of the top three guys. I don't really want to play anyone outside of Booker, Paul, and Ayton. Not going to look to guys like Bridges or Crowder or Sarge, but Booker and Paul, I think in tournaments, have plenty of upside here. It is a good matchup against the Warriors. Pace-up spot here for this Suns team. The Suns do play at a really slow pace, so getting to face the Warriors, a top 5 team in pace, is beneficial for guys like Booker and Paul. If I had to pick one, Paul's usually the guy I prefer. He does more with peripherals. It's kind of like Russell Westbrook versus Bradley Beal. Like Bradley Beal's more of the scorer, a guy that needs to drop 35, 40 points to really have that big game, whereas Russell Westbrook can go out there and triple-double. Chris Paul, not really a guy that can triple-double, but can definitely give you like 20 and 10 with a couple rebounds, can easily go for 45, 50 DK points. We've seen Chris Paul, even at this point in his career, still has a ton of upside. So between Booker and Paul, I do prefer to go to Chris Paul. DeAndre Ayton, I actually do like a good amount at center. I think in this matchup against the Warriors, he has a ton of upside here. This Warriors team has been pretty bad defensively against bigs, whether it's Kevon Looney or James Wiseman guarding DeAndre Ayton. I don't expect either one of those guys to have much success. The minutes have been all over the place for Ayton. Never know what you're going to get in terms of minutes, but I think most nights he's going to play around 32 to 34 minutes in a pace-up matchup against a pretty bad Warriors team, or at least Warriors defense, or Warriors defense that you can pick on down low with big men. I do actually like DeAndre Ayton here as a lower-owned tournament option at center. I don't think he's going to be that popular today. He is definitely someone I will be looking to on this slate at the center position. But that really does it for the Suns today, guys. That does it for all 9 games on this slate. So hope you guys enjoyed the game-by-game breakdown. Like I said, guys, this is my last video before the All-Star break, so I won't have any videos up till Wednesday, till when the games resume. I'm pretty sure we have a 2-game slate on Wednesday, so I'll be back then, guys. Enjoy the All-Star break. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Hit that like button before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You get notified every time I do go live. But yeah, guys, good luck tonight. Enjoy the All-Star break. Hope to see you guys back here on Wednesday when games resume. But yeah, good luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next